theyeshiva.net.
Okay, we're by the parentheses on Daf Yud Beis, column 1. On top it says Sav. It's a simcha we got through page 22. It's a simcha. Now we're on Yud Beis, 23. Before the kitzah, right before the kitzah, the parentheses. V'zeu hayesh Hashem, yeah? V'zeu hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin. Pirush, im hagilu mibchines seder ha'ishtalshelus, shehi bchines la'anchil oya vayesh. V'zeu hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu. Or shehagilu im almayla meseder ha'ishtalshelus, b'chines ayin, v'zeu im ayin. That's what we learned yesterday. That when the Jewish people confronted Moshe Rabbeinu and they asked, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im ayin, the pnimiyus, the deeper uptight, the deeper explanation is not if Hashem exists or doesn't exist. But if it's b'kirbeinu, if it's a state, if the Ein Sof is nizgala in what we call in Chassidus an oifen of Seder Hishtalshelus. What's Pshat Seder Hishtalshelus? Where it assumes the identity of Ilah and evolves into Alul and Ilah and Alul and Ilah and Alul and Ilah and Alul throughout the myriads and myriads and myriads of gradations and madregas, which is all the Pchin of Lahanchil Oya Vayesh. We explained about Olam Haba. It's a state of Yesh, meaning one that can somehow, even in the loftiest level, be grasped, be internalized, because even the highest Ilah is already a state of Yesh, and the Alul is a Yesh Miyesh, and whenever it's Yesh Miyesh, even the furthest Yesh and the original Yesh are connected in some way, because in the first Yesh you can identify, at least in potentiality, the properties in all of the subsequent Yeshes all the way till the end of the line. You can identify the last Yesh in the first one, even if it's so subtle and nebulous and not very tangible, but it's there, the properties are there. In the seed of the apple tree, you have the apple tree, even if you can't compare the two. The apple tree is big and splendid, but in the seed you have the properties that will one day develop into a full-blown, beautiful, splendid, large, impressive tree. Not that you could easily compare the two. You can't compare the taste of an apple or the look of an apple to the appearance or the taste of a seed. But to say that they're not connected, of course they're connected. From this seed, you're never going to get an orange tree. You're never going to get a kiwi tree. You're never going to get a grapevine. You're never going to get a fig tree. You're going to get an apple tree. And from this seed, you're never going to get an animal species even, obviously. Why? Because as far as it is, you can identify the potential here. The final yesh is there in the first yesh, even if it's what we call behelam, very concealed. Elokus, the divine, the way it's manifested, the way it assumes the pchina of yesh, that's called Olam Haba. There's a gilui of Ein Sof, an oifen of ishtalshelus. Ishtalshelus means there's going to be a shalsheles. What is the shalsheles? Yesh, one rung from another rung, connecting to another rung, and each rung allows the energy to become further concretized and further developed and manifest, and all the way down until the gashmi, until the physical. This is what's called hishtalshelus. That's one oifen of Gilui Ein Sof, lahanchil oya vayesh. Or perhaps it's milmayla meseder hishtalshelus, what we call ayin, im ayin. V'ayin b'zeh gimel shlach kufnun chesam et beis. I think it's explained over there on the pasuk. Hayesh ba eitz im ayin. Similar question. Moshe asked the spies to go to Eretz Yisrael and look if there's an eitz im ayin. So from the Zohar there you see that the question was, does the flow in Eretz Yisrael come through the eitz or ayin beyond the eitz? Gam Knei Chachma, Chazal say Knei Chachma, the Pasuk says Knei Chachma, Knei Bina, Beis Pa'amim, Knei Gematria Yesh. Yesh is 310, which is Knei, owning something, Kinyan. When something is in the state of a Yesh, you could be at Koina. A Kinyan means it's yours. There's a Kinyan Meshicha, there's a Kinyan Hagbah, there's a Kinyan Kesef, Shtar, Chazak, Chlippen. There's many kinyanim in halacha, methods of acquisition. But the common denominator in all of them is, I own it. You say, I own it. I'm koine it. Right? Kinyan chachma, kinyan Torah. What's the kinyan? You got it. You have it. That relates to something that's in a state of yesh. Amram chines ayin. Ayin last state of knei chachma, knei bina. A steer to the whole maimer. So he says, Amnam b'chinas ayun b'china hel yoyner shebechachma shedvuke b'mekoyre b'chinas v'chachma ayin tematzah. All bina has a shtickle chachma because bina comes from chachma. After the epiphany, you have the development of the epiphany. So chachma is a nekuda that develops into bina. So you say knei chachma, knei bina. But here we're talking about the ayin is the nekuda of chachma, the highest component of chachma, shedvuka b'mekoyre, which is connected to its source, which we call b'chinas v'chachma me'ayin tematzah. He brings a few man of Mekaymis. I'm Bezoya Parshas Vayikra, Pasuk Hashem and Atoiv. I'm Mashakasav in the Maimah Dibra Maschel Seno Irena Binyan Lahatzel Ponem Hashemen. Mashakasav Seif Dibra Maschel Shir Hashirim Binyan Ki Toivim Doidecha Miyoya. We say in Shir Hashirim, Yishakeni Min Ashikis Piyu Ki Toivim Doidecha Miyoya. Your Doidecha, your love is superior than wine. He says, Pchinis Yayin Hu Amesameach Elikim. Yayin is what? Mesameach elikim. Yayin is connected to simcha. Yayin is eim habonim smecha. Yayin is bina. Ubchinas doidecha zema shalamaylim ubchinas asimcha. Ki toivim doidecha mi yayin. This explains elsewhere that this is the difference of nisach hamayim and nisach hayayin. Nisach hayayin was all year in the Beis Hamikdash they poured wine. Wine is naturally a beverage that brings simcha. Chazal were misaken that we always connect joyous occasions with wine. Kiddush, Havdalah, benching, Abris, Erisin, Nisuyin, Ein Oimrim Shira El Alayayin. Then there's Nisach Hamayim. Nisach Hamayim, that's Moichin the Abba, not Moichin the Ima. That's something much, much deeper. It's a whole different concept. Simchas B'Sasheva, Shafta Mayim B'Sasan. It's not the regular Simcha of Yayin. Ki Toivim Doidecha Miyayin. Kitzer. This is a kitzer of chapter 1. Inyan be'erev toichel matzahs ve'inyan shloi hispik b'tzekas. That was the first theme. Inyan Yom Tov shomoyedim l'simcha. B'chinas me'shivi akeres habayis ema bonam smecha. B'nor yavru b'regel sham nismecha boy. Ve'inyan Shabbos b'chinas gilui v'achachma me'ayin timotzi the leis machshavet tvisa b'ay. Ki yesh b'chinas seder ishtalshlus ila v'alul shasharshe me'habina. There's a Seder Ishtalshlus which begins with Bina called Ila and Olav Azor, Shakas of Nar Ayotzim Eden. That's the river that leaves Eden and brings water to the Gan. And that's the Regel. Benar Yavru Beregel Regel. You reach the Nar Sham Nismecha. For Sham Shayach HaSimcha Me'asaga. And there could be Simcha from what you comprehended. V'yesh B'chinas Shalamayla M'Seder Ishtalshlus B'chidin Eden At B'chinas Eden Atzmai. The Eden from where the river comes. Shezalzen Nemer on this deposit says, Ayin loirasa lekim zulasecha. The Gemara says on the Gan there could be an experience, but on the Eden is Ayin loirasa lekim zulasecha, and I can't perceive it. V'zel v'karasa l'Shabbos oineg. Oineg Rashatevis Eden Nahar Gan. Oineg Eden Nahar Gan. The delight of Shabbos is much deeper than the simcha of Yom Tov. Shabbos is no simcha like Yom Tov, not because it's lower than Yom Tov, because it's a place that's deeper than simcha. That's what Einig represents, that it's the connection from Eden to Nar to Gan. The Nar is graspable, the Nar is lehanisba, is enjoyable, and the Eden represents Chachma, which is Ayin, it's Einay Musik. Yeah. Yeah, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Azman. V'zehu. And this is the meaning of the pasuk in Shmois. We have Shmois Lamed Aleph, U'shmartem es ha-Shabbos ki kodesh hi. You should observe the Shabbos ki kodesh hi, because she is holy. So the Balatanya teaches, what's pshat kodesh hi? Hi ba'atzma hi b'chinas kodesh ha'elyon. Kodesh hi, Shabbos itself. Shabbos represents, it embodies kodesh. Kodesh is the term used for Chachma, Kodesh ha'elyon, which is b'chinas Chachma, moichen da'abba shemizgala b'Shabbos. Mashenkin Yom Tov nikra mikra kodesh. The term that's used in Chumash for Yom Tov is Eila Moya de Hashem Mikroi Kodesh. The Torah will often say about a Yom Tov, Mikra Kodesh Yi Elechem. We don't find in Yom Tov and Chumash to be called Kodesh. It's called Mikra Kodesh. What's the difference? Ha'ara ba'alma mi Kodesh ha'elyon. Mikra Kodesh Shabbos is ushmartem as a Shabbos ki Kodesh Hi. This is it. This is Kodesh. This is Chachma. Yom Tov is Mikra Kodesh. What's Mikra Kodesh? Literally, a calling of holiness. You call it. So he says it's a ha'areh from Kodesh. In the Lashon HaKabbalah, Nehi da'abba b'toich moichen de'imah. Netzach hoid yisoid da'abba mitoich moichen de'imah. Every one of the spheres has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is called Rosh, the middle is called Toich, the end is called Soif. The beginning means how you're connected to your source. The middle is who you are, and the Soif is how you're mashpiyah to the next level. Like in every person, there's childhood, and childhood represents receptiveness. You need the nurture and the love and the protection and of course the nutrition from the mother. Then there is, a person assumes, relatively speaking, their independent identity. And then there's the stage when you now become a giver to the next generation. A father, a mother, a grandparent, a great-grandparent, a new level of hashpah. But that's already the person becoming a source for others. Right? In the spheres itself, there's what's called Gimel Rishonos, the highest three, which means always that which is makabel from the source. In other words, it's connection with that which is above. Then there is the middle, which represents its own identity. And then there's what's called the lowest. This is Nehi, Netzach Chod Yisoid, which is how it's mashpiyah to the next level. Netzach Chod Yisoid. So in the body, Netzach is the right thigh, Chod is the left thigh, and left foot, and Yisoid is the bris, which is what allows connectivity and reproduction. So in Kabbalistic Isis, he says Yom Tov is mekabel from Nehi da Abba, from Netzach Chod Yisoid of Abba, not from Gimel Rishonos of Abba, not from the highest pchinas of Chachma, Matzah, but from Nehi da Abba, from the lowest spheres, the way they're in Abba, because Bina is mekabel from Chachma. There's no Chachma, there's no Bina without Chachma. I don't have what to develop. It's like the feminine needs the seed to be able to work with it. The seed can then be developed. The seed and the egg together can be developed into an embryo. If there's no chachma, if there's no spark, if there's no nekuda of ayin, there's no yesh. Chachma doesn't need bina, but bina needs chachma. Chachma needs bina in order to become manifested, but it doesn't essentially need bina. But bina, its whole identity ultimately is tali and chachma. So Yom Tov is kodesh, Shabbos is kodesh hi. Yom Tov is mikra kodesh. It's a gilui of kodesh. Mikra kodesh. It's a gilui. There's a certain ha'ara. That's what he says. B'toich meichen deim. Shari gam b'Yom Tov b'gilui meichen deim tzarich lahamshich meichen de'ab. Because even on Yom Tov, in the gilui of meichen deim, you have to bring in meichen de'ab. Ki meichen deim agam shem b'chinas yesh. Meichen deim, even though it's what we call yesh, mikol mokem einam b'chinas davar nifrit chas v'shalom. Not something separate. Elo hu hayesh nimshach me'ayin. It's the yesh that comes from ayin. It's the way ayin is manifested in yesh. Ki ayin v'yesh chachma and binim today rein de la misparsh. The Lashon HaZayir is that chachma and bin are two inseparable friends. They're two friends, but they're inseparable friends. They have to hold hands. Chachma has to hold hands with bin, and bin has to hold hands with chachma. Just like you have it in seichel, in understanding. If a person comes from chachma to bin, but they don't go back to chachma, so then ultimately there's something flawed. Right? Sometimes a person will have a nekuda, and then the nekuda gets developed into many, many details. But if you don't go back to that nekuda, so then the details ultimately cause you to get lost and not to know the point. Right? Sometimes a person will sit at a shiur or learn something, And there's a lot going on. You say, what's the nekuda? Tell me the nekuda. If you can't say what you learned in one sentence, you didn't get it. You got details, but you didn't get the picture. So from Chachma you go to Bina, but from Bina you have to go back to Chachma. Bina has to remain connected to Chachma. There's an expression in Sefer Yetzirah, Havein b'Chachma v'Chachein b'Bina. Don't remain in the world of Chachma, Havein b'Chachma. Bring Bina into Chachma, but then bring Chachma back into Bina. So the Zohar calls it Trein Rei in the Lamas Parsha. Two friends that are not separable. Two friends that have to walk together. Because the kavanah was not that the ayin and the yesh remain two separate things. Emes, you can't compare Bina to Chachma. One is Abba, one is Ima, one is ayin, one is yesh. It's a completely different state. One is simcha, one is tainug, one is Shabbos, one is Yom Tov. But even Yom Tov is mikra kodesh. The nekuda is not the yesh should be divorced from the ayin. That the ayin should be manifested in the yesh as much as the yesh can grasp, of course. Bina will never be Chachma. You'll never have the clarity and the light that you have in Chachma, you'll never have again in Bina. Because Bina is made up of Oisius and Metzius. Chachma is made up of Bittel. So it's a different inyan. But Bina has to be a gilui of Chachma. It's the way Chachma is being brought down in Oisius, in concretization, in inyan of Yesh. So it's called Tirei Rei in the Lamas Parsha. Shetamid nirshach b'chinas Bittel meichen de Abba liyas b'chinas meichen de Ima. In the flow of the world, the bittul of Abba must be communicated into Meichen De'ima, his galus hatainug. The revelation of tainug, which is connected to Chachma, Eden, Oineg, Eden, Nargan. Sha'atainug hu gam kein mamshachas Eden Seiparach hu the leis machshavet vis. That the real tainug is from the Ein Sof, which no thought grasps. V'loi tainug mehasagas dafa nifrit chas v'shalom. Even the tainug of Bina, which is associated with simcha, is not from something separate. Ela shenitin lahanes begilui erzeh machmas yirides v'ishtalshlos v'gilui zeh achabala asaga echshoer gadol. Ela mai, the Ein Sof, it lends itself to have hana. In Chachma there's no hana because there's no leis machshavet tfisa, it can be a teufus. In Bina there could be hana, but what's the hana? Not from something separate. From the Ein Sof, ela shenitin lahanes. The further it goes down, the person goes lamata mata, appreciates the kaloi, the valuelessness of it, and therefore there's a tremendous simcha from this earth. Ach besimcha zu tzarich lahamshich moichen da abba gamkein shetiyah hasimcha megiliyed in sof the leis machshava. That the simcha should be connected to the original, to the Ein Sof. V'zeu inyan mikra kodesh, ka'adam shekoire lachaveda. Somebody calls his friend. Mikra kodesh means you call out to kodesh. It's a calling to kodesh, like somebody calls his friend. No telephones at the time. Koire, you koire lachaveda. You say, Reb Chaim, Reb Motel, yeah, come over. Because he says, how do you call somebody? You use his name. A person has a name, and you call him by name. Everybody understands that a name doesn't capture the core of a person. It's what's called a ziv. It's a radiance. It's a ray. It's a spashtas memena. Kachu inyan mikra kodesh mebchinas shem. Shurak ha'ara ba'alma mebchinas abba. So when you say Yom Tov is Mikra Kodesh, I call you by your name. I don't have the ability to be able to capture that core, that essence. You take a turn around. But how am I identifying you? I'm identifying you by your name. But it's a relationship. So he says, Mikra Kodesh is, it calls out to Kodesh. It calls Kodesh. How does it call Kodesh? Through the shame of Kodesh. That's Nehi, that's the Ha'ara. That's the lowest part of Chachma, that which could be manifested in Bina. Ke'inyan baruch shem kvoid malchus elolam v'ad. Or the pasuk says, Vayaz David shem, which is p'chinas netzach chayd yisayt. Yeah. In Kiddush. Rishon l'mikroi Kiddush. Nu, was sagt the Gemara in Pesachim of Rishon? Ach b'yayim Rishon, tashbisu, Rishon de meikarahu. Rishon is before everything. We touch Ach b'yayim Rishon means Erev Pesach. Rishon de Meikara, Harisha and Adam Tailed. Who was born before Rishon? Rishon sometimes means first, and Rishon sometimes means before the first. Ach b'yom Rishon Tashbisu means not the first day of Pesach. Rishon de Meikara is before Pesach, before Mikroi Kodesh. Good hara. Rishon, the Gemara says in Pesachim, Dafayah Mid Beis, Rishon de Meikara mashma. Rishon often doesn't mean the first. Sometimes it means the first. By Yom Rishon, Mikroi Kodesh, like it says Yom Tov, by Yom Rishon. Rishon the Mikroi Kodesh is beyond Mikroi Kodesh. Chachma, Moichen da Abba. That's why Shabbos is the union of Tainuk. There's also the element of Shabbos that comes into Yom Tov. That's Mikra Kodesh. So there's an element of Shabbos connected to Yom Tov. But Shabbos, it says Kodesh He. Shabbos does is Kodesh Alein. That is Kodesh. And Yom Tov is Mikra Kodesh.
Who's calling Yom Tov?
The Psukim, the Torah, the ordinary term for Yom Tov in Chumash is Mikra Kodesh. By Yom Harishon Mikra Kodesh. By Yom Hashvi Mikra Kodesh. Huh? Ela Moed Hashem Mikra Kodesh. Parshas Emor, Parshas Pit. Huh?
Who's calling to Yom Tov?
Oh, so Balatani explains that Yom Tov is the time in the calendar when there's Mikra Kodesh. Yom Tov calls out to Kodesh, like the person calling out to his friend. But it's your name that I call. It's your name. V'hinei ha'orev amshach zu b'Yom Tov v'ayidei tefillah v'halal. On Yom Tov, the ability to experience and access the Gilui Ein Sof of Yom Tov, which is the simcha that we explained, Eim Habanim Smecha, Shuvi Nafshilim Nechoichi, the Gilui of Ein Sof, Lahanchil Oya Vayesh, that's accessed primarily through Tefillah and Hallel. Every Yom Tov has its prayers, and the Hallel that was instituted on Yom Tov. Acheim einam rak midrabanan. Both Tefillah and Hallel are mitzvahs derabanan. So comes the Mashal Shavuos. We daven on Shavuos. There's a special davening for Shavuos. There's also the Hallel for Shavuos, but that's rabbinic. What's the Reis on Shavuos? You don't do malacha. Even the blintzes are not minat Torah. Yeah. Comes Sukkos. Sukkos, you have, of course, the tefillas of Sukkos. You have the Hallel of Sukkos. And then you have also the other mitzvahs, whether it's sitting in the sukkah, shaking the lulav, and so forth. But the tefillah and the Hallel component, that's the Rabbanon. But then you have the mitzvahs min ha-Torah of Yom Tov. So Shavuos, you don't have any special mitzvahs on Shavuos, min ha-Torah to do on Shavuos, min ha-Torah. But the Rabbanon you have, not min ha-Torah. Sukkos, you have the sukkah and the lulav, Nisach HaMayim, there were different mitzvahs on Sukkos. Pesach, you have the mitzvah of Achilas Matzah, which is Deiraisa. Shehu Katnus Abba. Matzah is known, this is a language of the Arizal, Katnus Abba, which means the smallness of Abba. What's Pshat? Ki Matzah Moichen de Abba. Matzah represents not Moichen de Imme, taka Moichen de Abba. What's the connection? She'ein hatinik yodei likris Abba at sheyitim tam dagon. Chazal tell us that a child does not know how to say, how to call out Abba until he's toyim tam dagon, until he starts eating grain. So Gemara in Brachas Daf Mem, the Gemara discusses what the Eitz Hadas was. When Chava gave to Adam from the Eitz Hadas, from the tree of knowledge, the tree of perception, the tree of awareness of good and evil, what was that tree? So there's the shitta that it was an esrig, there's the shitta that it was a grape, there's the view that it was a fig. Esrig is in Medrash, but the Gemara brings over there a fig, a grape, and then there's the shitta that chita haisa. Eitz Hadas chita haisa. It was actually wheat, it was grain. And the Gemara says that would explain why it's called Eitz Hadas. Because ein hatinik yoideya likris abba at sheyitim tam dagan. An infant doesn't know how to say tati. Tati. That's what the Gemara says. Ein yoideya likris abba. He doesn't know to call out father until he starts eating grain. At sheyitim tam dagan. As long as the baby is nursing the milk, the baby may be aware instinctively on some level, this is mother, this is father, especially mother. But ein atinik yoidea likris abba, to start verbally saying father, at sheyitem tam dagan. So the Gemara says that's why the Eitz Hadas was chita. What does this mean?
It's actually very hard to comprehend because it's eitz. Chita is not eitz. Chita is
Different. Why is it called eights?
You say why it's called eitz when it was grain, it wasn't a tree.
It's not a tree.
Speaks about the wheat was much bigger than it.
Kekloyas, yeah? The chita kekloyas.
It's good.
raisins.
Huh?
The size like kidneys, would be much bigger plant.
It's viscose. Now it doesn't say the lucid logo.
Asidim, chutchitim, that's going to be, perhaps, yeah. So grain, somehow, Chazal were telling us that the child eating grain, meaning when the child eating what we call real food, which basically was defined by lechem, whether it was oats, what you serve today to kids, kasha, farina, oatmeal, even if it has to be grinded up and made soft with water. But there's a tam dagon, there's a taste of grain, so somehow it gives the child the ability to be able to know to call out Abba. So what's the vart here? So he says, this yediyah in the tinnik is not regular das, mature das. It's beyond, it's milmayla min hadas hamusik. It's beyond the das that's comprehensible. At this stage in infancy, the knowledge that this is my father, this is my mother, is not processed in an organized fashion of what we would call bina. If you'll ask the child, what makes him your father? He doesn't know. Today that often continues even in adulthood, unfortunately. But at that point, it's not something the child can process in an organized fashion. This is what a father does, this is what a mother is, this is what he does, this is what he doesn't do, this is how it happened. What is it? So he says it's something very deep. He doesn't know how he's his father. What makes him his father? What does it mean even that you have a father? He's not in that place yet. The mind, the brain is not developed yet. Ki das hatinik katan. The das of the child at this point is very small. But, when he says Abba, when he says Tata, it has everything inside of it. It has everything there, but not in a processed, intellectually organized way. It's l'mayla min hadas. Before he's yedei likris Abba, it's very, very deep. It's not processed consciously yet, even though unconsciously there's the knowledge of tati and tati, but it's unconscious. That's like higher than chachma. That's ayin mamish. Bin is when something is comprehensible. I can explain it. I can answer questions. You can challenge me. Yeah. You'll come to this child eating the dung. Maybe he's not your father. Maybe he's not your. Well, he's going to start answering questions. You say, do a DNA testing. He's going to tell you to do a DNA testing. So what is it? It's the l'mayla min hadas coming out. It's a nekuda. He knows this is his father. And he could say Abba. And you'll start analyzing his words and asking him, he won't be able to answer you. But in that Abba, you have everything. In that Abba Tati, we know how special it is. The father feels it, the mother feels it. In that Tati or that Mami, and that Tati, you have everything. Everything contained, everything compressed, everything concealed. But it's in the Nekuda Atzmas that we're connected. How the connection manifests itself in so many different ways, one day, hopefully, you'll understand. Hopefully, you'll understand. You may have to become a father yourself to understand it, right? Huh? Respect the father inside of you.
We're hanging around long enough here.
Huh?
We're hanging around long enough here. Maybe.
So,
It's a stage when the baby recognizes his father before he says that.
right.
I always thought that this wheat, refers to when the baby knows it's his father. I cannot pronounce it yet, but you can reach out.
But, and usually then you start eating dogon, even baby food, a little dogon. Right in the beginning of life, you don't feed baby food. I mean, sometimes it's different situations.
What I'm saying is there is a stage by baby.
Yeah.
They know the father is without being able to pronounce it.
Yeah. Da. Sometimes they'll do da, right? For a few months, da. So what's in that da? What's in that da? It's a very, very deep, it's a sensitive idea. What's in that da? He says everything is there, but it's mulmayla min adas. It's not there organized, Shia, what a father is. Doesn't come with it doesn't come with baggage. But everything is there. Everything in the relationship is there. V'gam matzah ein batam, she'ein bahagba. This is also represented. So the Balatanya teaches a gewaldige Wort that the Rebbeinu Shalala wanted Yidden to eat matzah. By Yitzias Mitzrayim, it's the pchina of a child being toyim tam dagan. It's a child eating the taste of grain, which allows the ability to be able to say Abba, to be able to say da, ta. So he says it's also represented in matzah. For that, it's all dagan. The Gemara doesn't say matzah. The Gemara says dagan, grain. He says, but there's two types of grain. V'gam matzah ein batam. Matzah is not something that's known for its taste and flavor. Right? Even though people had to say this year the matzah is delicious. But that's like when you say on the plane that the food of this airline is delicious. I never saw a wedding anybody serves matzah. If it's so delicious, why don't you serve it at your smorgasbords instead of the sushi and the spare ribs? So halachically we say matzah ein batam. And also in Masechta Pesachim there's a didnt Shulchan Aruch basically bala matzah yatza, bala mar lo yatza. If a person just swallowed the matzah, they fulfill the mitzvah. It's not about taste. Bala marar, if you just swallow the marar lo yatza, you weren't yet to the mitzvah. That's Pashat in halacha. Matzah is not about the taste. Al pi pnimiyus, it's a very deep vart. Tam is connected to bina. Matzah is connected to chachma. Bina is about a tam, a flavor. That's what bina is. There's a flavor, there's a taste. The word tam means two things. It means a reason and it means a taste. Why are they the same word? Because it's haba hatalia. The reason of something gives you a taste in it. When somebody understands tam, there's a psatam, satatam. If there's no reason, it's not tam. So you have that which is lower than tam and that which is higher than tam. Yeah. So matzah, he says, al pi halacha ein batam. That's why you don't have to. To eat matzah, you don't have to have a tam. To eat chachma, you don't have to have a tam. Ein batam and weiter ein bahagba. There's no element of inflation, inflatedness. I should say, maybe there's no inflation too. The zelba matzah that they ate then, we eat now. Just the price went up a little bit.
It's inflation.
Okay. So there is inflation in matzah, but that's not the matzah's fault. That's not the matzah's fault. That's the economy. What do they say? It's the economy, stupid, right? The economy. The ingredients didn't change. There's alba matzah that they ate. It's even, you can even feel that it's as stale as 3,000 years old. It's mamash des alba matzah. It says, ein bahagba. It represents the fact that there was no fermenting. In other words, there was no rising of the dough. There was not inflatedness. That's again the difference of bina and chachma.
Did you have pita breads, like the Yemenite?
But still didn't become chametz. The dough may have been thicker, but not chametz. Ein bahagba. The dough didn't rise. And traditionally it was understood they allowed the dough to rise. That gives it a certain tam, a certain flavor, a certain richness, a certain taste. That's the concept of lechem, of chametz. And bread and matzah is ein bahagba. And that's the difference of bina and chachma spiritually. In bina, there's a sense of the dough gets inflated. It's a yesh. Lahan chilayav a yesh. It's a metzias of yesh. The metzias. You grasp it, which is why there's simcha. Chachma is ayin. What's the closest thing you get to ayin in physicality? Yeah, you don't let the matzah rise. Ulamayla min adas subchinas abba. Whenever you speak about lamayla min adas, that's what abba is. That's what chachma is. Why do we call matzah katnos abba? Because it's communicated to the child, the way the child processes chachma. That's why matzah in Zohar is called the bread of emunah, the bread of faith. The Zohar says that when you eat matzah, you're eating the bread of hemnusa, the bread of emunah. What's the havana in this? The havana in this is that when a Jew eats matzah on Pesach, the Zohar says you're eating emunah. What does it mean you're eating emunah? Literally, the interpretation is it was a bread that represented the emunah of the Jewish people. They went into the desert. They didn't know where they're going. They just went and they ate. They took matzah and they followed in the desert. It represents emunah. But the Balatanya is teaching much deeper, that the oichel itself is michal de behemnusa. Just like when the child eats dagan, it allows him to identify his father. What type of identification? It's not pshat, it's an identification in an intellectual way. It's something that's beyond das. But instead of it remaining unconscious, it's accessed by the child in a conscious way. And that's what we call the chachma coming out. There's a certain gilui of chachma, but it's processed the way a child processes it. That's when you eat dagan a whole year. When you eat matzah, when the Jewish people ate matzah by Yitzias Mitzrayim, and we eat matzah every year, it's also the same concept. But here, it's not Yodea Likras Abba, only the physical father. Here, we're talking about Abba, the ultimate father. So you eat the dagan, which dagan you eat dafka matzah, not chametz. Because chametz has a tam and matzah doesn't have a tam. Chametz is the dough becoming inflated, and matzah is the dough in a state of bittul, in a state of ayin. So it's that type of grain, that type of matzah, that allows the Jewish soul, yoidea likris Abba, to be able to experience something of Abba, of not bina, of the Chachma. It's called katnos. Why is it called katnos? Because they were just leaving Egypt, they were just in Galus. Just like by a child, it's still in a state of katnos. We call it katnos Abba, but in that Abba you have everything. It's not pshat, in that Abba you don't have anything. You have the whole infinity, the way it's compressed in the word Abba. Everything that will connect, everything that will be developed over the years. It's the chachma of it in a way of katnos. So the Zohar puts it and says, this is michlal me'emnusa. What's the concept of emunah? The concept of emunah is l'mayla min adas, l'mayla min abina. Emunah is connected to chachma and ayin. That's what emunah really is. Emunah is not the intellectual comprehension about godliness. What I understand, that's the function of bina, that's the function of seichel. A person understands, a person analyzes, a person asks, a person dissects. Emunah is a connection that really is super conscious. Emunah is the connection that is deep in the soul. We once spoke about Emunah, that there's an expression in Chassidus. Emunah is azazach, was akasha macht es nicht schwacher, und a teretz macht es nicht starker. Emunah is something, a question doesn't weaken it and an answer doesn't strengthen it. Why not? Of course it should. If you believe something and I start asking you 100 questions, maybe I shouldn't believe it. Now I'll start answering you, maybe I should believe it. That's because we don't understand what emunah is. There's a type of emunah you call in English blind faith. Of course questions make that weaker. That's why people who have blind faith are very upset with questions, because you're going to challenge it, you may destroy it. But that's emunah that's lower than das. Here we're talking emunah that's lamayla min das. There's emunah that's lower than das, emunah that's higher than das. Emunah that's lower than das is very shaky. People believe a lot of things. Why? I don't know. The Elter Baba told them. I'm not talking in the Jewish world necessarily. I'm talking b'chlal. People believe. I start challenging it and asking you questions. Right? Maybe not. But then there's the real emunah. A question won't make it weaker and a teretz won't make it stronger. Because it's not based on the fact that I'm not using my brain. I'm shutting off my brain. I don't want to think. No, I'm happy to think. It's just an appreciation of the fact that truth ultimately is not seicheldik. There's a place of truth that's beyond seichel, so your mind has to take you to where it takes you. Takes you to the door, but it can't take you through the door. This is where emunah comes in. Emunah is like the soul experiencing godliness because it's a chelik alakami malkut, it's part of it. It's like the child, you say, prove me that he's your father. Oh, it's stupid that he's your father. Prove me that he's your mother. The child knows that this is his father. He doesn't call somebody else's father. Why not? Doesn't call somebody else's father. Unless somebody's raising him as a father. I mean, you have such situations. But generally speaking, how does he know this is his father? Maybe the babysitter is his father. Yeah. So you'll start asking questions and prove it. You'll say, this is blind. It's not blind. It's a very, very deep recognition, even if he can't articulate it in oisius and hasbaris and words and so forth. And when one has that, it's deeper than seichel. Once gave a mashal. There was an interesting machlokes between two gedolei hachsidus. You had the Zidditchover Rebbe, Reb Tzvi Hirsch of Zidditchov. They called him Sar Beis HaZoyar. He's from the big Mukabalim. He lived in the early 1800s. I think Rabbi Rotenberg here is an Einikel, right? He wrote a sefer called Sur Meirav Asei Tov. In it, he's very, very sharp about the Gedolei Yisrael who went into chkiris, philosophical proofs that God exists. And he criticizes it very, very heavily, including the Rambam and the Balatanya. He mentions over there the Shar HaYichud, whether he means the Alter Rebbe's Shar HaYichud or the Mittler Rebbe. They both wrote, Balatanya wrote Shar HaYichud and Tanya. His son wrote a sefer called Shar HaYichud. Yeah, all the svarim of the rishonim and the acharonim that discuss Yichud Hashem, explaining it, he's very upset. And he compares it and he says that it's like the Jews saying, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin. Says, I just took you out of Mitzrayim. You're sitting on my shoulder. I'm protecting you from everything. And all you can ask is, do I exist? And the Zidditchover writes, what a kfui toiv. How could you be so ungrateful? There was Yitzias Mitzrayim, and there was Kriyas Yamsuf, and there was Matan Torah, and everything the Jewish people went through, and then they're busy proving that God exists. It's very, very sharp. Extremely sharp. That sefer, Sumer Asei Tov, has Hagos, it has footnotes from Reb Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, known as the Bnei Yissaschar. Bnei Yissaschar was one of the great Hasidic masters from Dinov, Poland. He wrote a very famous sefer Bnei Yissaschar. He also wrote Hagos, commentary, on the Zidditchover sefer Sumer Asei Tov. So over there on this piece he writes Azai. He says, what should I do? The Zidditchover, he says, he was so filled with a fire towards God that he couldn't understand. He couldn't understand that there's people who have questions. And this you can't teufel. So Meli starts accusing everybody who addresses them as being unfaithful to God. He says, but I want to ask him a question. What if he would have grown up in Terach's house? He says, if he would have grown up in Terach's house, what was Avram supposed to do? Not ask questions. He says he had to ask questions. So the Bnei Yissaschar, who's not into chkiris, in Bnei Yissaschar he speaks a lot against philosophy. Like many of the Gedolei Yisrael of that generation, because they saw a lot of catastrophic results in terms of Jewish alienation in the 1800s and the 1900s and the late 1700s was massive. The Enlightenment and all that. But he says, if somebody who was by Yitzias Mitzrayim, by Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashteyach, he says, what do you want? A person who's confused and lost and being bombarded by different ideas? You have to be able to help him make a seder. So there's room for an intelligent conversation. That's what he says. He says, but what should I do? He doesn't understand this. He says, because Libai Boyer, Ba'avas Hashem, and he's experiencing Yitzias Mitzrayim every day. He doesn't understand anybody else. That's what the Bnei Yissaschar writes in the Zidditchover. So Stam, in parentheses, you learn here how to argue with somebody. He's arguing with him, but it's an argument. It's coming from a deep place of respect. So I read it once. I read it, and I was thinking to myself, a gewaldige mashal for it. Imagine your father is taking you to your chuppah. On the way to the chuppah, You turn to your father and say, by the way, why are you holding me? Your father, prove it. Prove it! Prove it. I'm your father. How do I know? I don't know. Let's stop the chuppah. Let's go for DNA testing. Let's see. Yeah? After we get it back, we get back the results, we'll go to the chuppah. There's something off here, right? There's something off. What's off? What do you mean? DNA is going to prove it. Till then, you can't prove that you're my father. You can't prove it. What's wrong?
Only your father paid for the wedding.
He paid for the wedding, and if he didn't pay for the wedding, let's hope he's paying. At that point, he didn't pay yet. We all know that DNA is a proof. It's very good proof, right? It's a good. Seichel will say it's a good proof. But now I'll ask you a question. If you go get the DNA testing, you're going to go to the chuppah. It's going to help. It's going to help. What is it going to help? There's something off. We grew up together. My whole life was dedicated to you. I did everything for you. So now you're questioning if I'm your father. But now let's ask the opposite question. If a child grew up adopted or estranged, tinnik shenishba, and now somebody comes and says, by the way, I'm your father. Vivesach. Now DNA is going to mean the world. The world. If my father Shanaf, my mother is going to now bring me DNA and show me that she's the mother, it's going to add something. Now I'll call her every day. Now when I call her Erev Shabbos, I say, oh, now I really know you're my mother. Now I really know. I saw my whole life, I know this is my mother. I know who I am, I know who she is. I know my mother. How do I know? Start asking me 1,000 questions, okay? You'll prove to me. It's not negeya. Questions don't weaken it. Answers don't. I'm not Monsey. But if I grew up in an estranged home, then DNA is everything. So the Shaiva says, "What's for me? You're going to start with DNAs. You're going to start showing me DNA. God exists. He's your father. He created. What's for me? Let's all go for DNA so we could call our father out of Shabbos and feel good about it because he's really our father. It's a litzonis. It's like my live it. Fine, you want to do it, do it. Emunah is not afraid of seichel. I'm not afraid of my mother getting DNA testing. I may find out. I'm not afraid that my mother should get DNA testing. I'm really not. I don't need it. You understand? I don't need it. It doesn't add anything in the world of experience. It doesn't add anything. If you're estranged, it adds a lot. It adds a lot. Those are the two streams of Yiddishkeit, Emunah and Seichel. Emunah never competes with Seichel. If it competes with Seichel, it's not good. If Emunah is afraid of Seichel, it's like, oh, we're afraid, there's something off. You never have to be afraid. Truth never has to be afraid of an intelligent conversation. Because if it's true, it's true. No reality will contradict it. It doesn't mean you'll always have an answer. It doesn't mean there's no dilemmas. It doesn't mean there's no struggles. Of course, there's things we don't understand. Much more we don't understand than we do understand. But truth is not afraid of conversation, of an intelligent conversation. And that's what you'll see throughout Jewish history. I don't know of one authentic Gadol b'Yisrael who was afraid of questions. Some of them, the Chovos HaLevavos holds that there's a mitzvah that you have to investigate, and other rishonim hold is no. Right? There was machlokes of rishonim v'yadata hayom if there's a mitzvah for every Jew to investigate. Chovos HaLevavos says if you could take a prescription and know what it is, it's much better than if you take it because the doctor told you, even if you trust the doctor. That's what the Chovos HaLevavos holds. Other rishonim didn't hold that way. This is a machlokes even by the rishonim if there's a mitzvah to investigate and understand with seichel. But whatever the shitta was, nobody was afraid of a shaila. Nobody. There's nothing to be afraid of. What do you have to be afraid of? People in cults, leaders of cults, don't allow conversation. Why? If you have an illegal business, you don't let anybody look at the books. Bernie Madoff, nobody looked at the books because it's a Pansy scheme. Pansy schemes, you don't let anybody look because if they look too hard, they're going to see the MS. Right? Communist regime was all based on cover-ups. Nothing was ever true. Why? Because they knew the moment you speak truth, the moment you even give people a hava minute, there's something called truth and you have to search for it, it's over. The whole regime was based on lies, and the lies perpetuate themselves. Sometimes people live like that. Their whole life is one big lie. So when it's a big lie, you don't want to open it. If you open it, if you look at it, it's dangerous. That type of emunah, it's what's called indoctrination. The emunah of Yiddishkeit that we're talking here, Michel de Meimnus, is never lemata min adas. It's lemayla min adas. It's beyond das. It's chachma. Chachma is re'iyah. It's a emunah that comes from intimate experience. We spoke yesterday, when was it? You know the psalm, but I know the shepherd. There's knowing the shepherd, and there's seeing the shepherd, there's experiencing the shepherd. Such a emunah, a question will not make weaker. An answer will not make stronger. Not that it doesn't respect seichel, it respects seichel. It's just a different wavelengths, you know. We know there are different wavelengths of light, there are different wavelengths of sound, different wavelengths. One wavelength of light could be experienced by my retina, my eye. Another wavelength of light, my eye doesn't see it. There are birds that see colors that we don't see. Why? Because they don't exist. They exist. I just don't have the kalim. Yeah.
Just look in the black hole that they discovered. It was all used high frequency radio waves. They didn't use the
What do you say?
They used in discovering black holes. They didn't use black hole. The picture that we discussed yesterday. They didn't see the year. It's not a visible light that comes to us. It's a high frequency radio waves that they would be through the radio waves they were able to produce the image. So that's exactly.
Through the high frequency radio waves, they could produce the image around the black hole.
Yeah, they reconstruct the image of black hole.
Because of the high frequency radio waves in the black hole. Yeah. Very interesting. So this is a very powerful mashal, because you're going to say the bird is delusional, the bird is indoctrinated. I don't see the colors. These colors, this image, you're not going to be able to see because it doesn't hit your eye. It doesn't hit your eye. What should I do? It doesn't hit my eye. Yeah, a person plugs their ears. There's certain sounds, you know, that after a certain age you won't hear. It's a certain frequency you're not going to hear. You know, buildings for senior citizens, right? They allow certain sounds. They will not allow in other places because they know that they won't complain about it because they pusher won't hear it. So you'll say it doesn't exist. It exists. You have to have the right keli. That's the difference between emunah and seichel. Emunah and seichel never compete. It's two frequencies. It's two complete frequencies. Seichel is, right, the sound waves. That it's a certain frequency, and therefore there's certain kalim that experience it. Emunah never competes with it. Emunah is a different type of light wave that travels, and you have to have the kalim to experience it. It's the eyes of the soul. It's the sixth sense of the soul that, when cultivated, allows you to experience ultimate reality. That's why the Zohar says, Matzah is michel de mehemnusa. It's the oichel of emunah. It's the dagon. It's the grain of matzah, the grain of bittel, the grain of chachma, the grain of ein beitam that the Jewish people eat on Pesach, which allows the child to say, Abba. How do you know? How do you know? Prove it. The child knows this is my father. I experienced this my father. I may be a child, so it's still not developed, it's not sophisticated, but it's all there. The emes is there.
There's knowing enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why only one time a year do we eat matzah? Why not more often?
Every Yom Tov, you're saying why once a year? Every Yom Tov, like we spoke many times, has its function that it tries to inculcate. And then from there, we take the inspiration for the rest of the year. Right? So like he says, you know, we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim every day. It's a mitzvah. And yet, Pesach, there's some mitzvah to tell the story with all the details and tell it to your child. So really, we want to have the Seder a whole year, but it's different. You can't compare the night of Pesach to the whole year.
This too in the Rebbe, Matzah 11 months a year.
That's what they say, yeah.
Actually, there's people that have minhag of eating matzah all the way from Pesach, I think, to Sukkot on Shabbos.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different minhagim. There were people who ate matzah most of the year. Till before Nissan when you don't eat matzah. There's an expression of the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Maharash of Shmuel. He was a son of the Tzemach Tzedek. So he once said, he was explaining this, he said, Ayid est matzah ester elikus. A Jew is eating matzah, he's eating emunah. Michla de Menos, it doesn't mean it's the faith, the food of emunah. He says, Michla, the food is emunah. He says, as a est matzah est min emunah, me est elikus. The physical matzah, when it's made like matzah is supposed to be made al pi halacha, has within it the energy of emunah, the energy of elikus. Ayid etz matzah ester emunah est elikus. Because the matzah, it's not just the kavanas of matzah, the inyan of matzah, the concept of matzah. The tinoik has to eat the dagon to be able to say Abba. It's the matzah itself that gives the spiritual digestive system of the Jew. It opens it up to this type of yediyah, this type of emunah, which is beyond das, it's chachma, it's the ayin, but in a way that's consciously manifested, which is michla de meimnusa, the bread of emunah. And emunah is always connected to chachma. And every Jew has chachma, so therefore, every Jew has emunah. Yisrael ma'minim b'nei ma'minim. Because this emunah is not about how intellectually profound you are. That's a separate b'china. So this is extremely important. People often put emunah versus seichel versus emunah. They should never be pitted against each other. It's different frequencies that you pick up in creation. One is processed through one aspect, one is processed through another aspect. Each one has its beautiful place. The two never destroy each other or compete each other. And sometimes a person can have one and not experience the other. And it's not because the other is not good and the other is delegitimized, never. It's just this is the kav of emunah, this is the kav of seichel. Okay.
Second Seder, called the bread of
Michla da asvasa. Healing. It says in Zoya, Michla da meimnusa, Michla da asvasa.
It's a totally different thing.
It's a psavart, as the emunah bringt the refuah, as the refuah bringt the emunah. Yeah. Yeah, Michla da asvasa. The bread of faith and the bread of healing.
No, it makes sense. In the Eibishter is the healer. So that's maybe because you
Verstanden noch?
for healing, you usually go to Bina, to knowledge.
Right.
With it. Different change.
No, so knowledge is a very special gift. A person should never, Emunah never delegitimizes knowledge and investigation and the conversations. It's just a different shrek. That's my point. Different shrek, and it's a different keli that picks it up. People are trying to do, this is where people get confused. They try to use the keli for seichel for emunah, and the keli for emunah for seichel, and it drives you crazy. The keli that picks up the frequency of seichel is a special keli. It's made for that. And that keli can't pick up emunah. What do you want from it? It's not supposed to pick up emunah. It's supposed to pick up its track. That's how it operates.
Eating from the ears.
Yeah. Huh?
It's like trying to eat from the ears.
Yeah, trying to eat, yeah. There's music. There's a certain part of me that picks up music. Yeah? Chas v'shalom if I'm deaf, right? You could take me to the most beautiful concert. Say, look what a beautiful concert. I can't see the beautiful concert. You'll take a blind person to the art gallery, right? To the Louvre. Most beautiful paintings. I can hear the music. I can't see the paintings. It's a different experience. You understand? Huh? Yeah, I don't mean. And as somebody once said, Helen Keller said, the only thing that's worse than being blind is not having vision. That's what Helen Keller said.
But it's also vision doesn't mix up with the eyes.
Of course, that's the difference. There's eyesight and there's vision, right? Helen Keller said the only thing that's worse than being blind is not having vision.
It's the same concept.
There are people who have vision, they have eyesight but no vision. The people who are, she was saying, it could be.
It's two different canon.
That's my point. Vision. What's vision? A person has vision. So open your eyes, you'll have vision. You're not going to have vision if you open your eyes. You have to open up different types of eyes. Emunah is certain eyes. Certain eyes. It's a frequency of elikus that comes into Yiddish and Neshama, which is a chelik elikami mal.
Wise people have called visionaries.
Visionaries, yeah. Einei ha'eda. Einei ha'eda, the eyes of the congregation. Einei, the Gemara says, the Pasuk says, Einei ha'eda. Right? They're called Einayim. Why? Hachacham Einov Beroisha. Moshe Rabbeinu asks Yisroi, V'hayisalonu la'einayim. What an expression. Imagine a man tells his father-in-law, we need eyes. V'hayisalonu la'einayim. We want you to stay in the desert, so you should be our eyes. What did he mean? V'hayisalonu la'einayim. You're going to be our pair of eyes. Without you, we will not have vision. Interesting, no? What did Yisroi give so much to the Jews? He didn't listen, he left. We're still looking for the einayim. Somehow Yisroi could become the eyes. So the soul has certain eyes that experience the divine. So you'll say, yeah, but you have this kasha. Okay, you have kasha, it's fine. Be'enei Hashem.
So Chaim in the vision of Hashem.
Okay. That's the problem. There's a question will make it weaker. Not because there's no question, because it's not operating on that frequency.
Is the man is a real food of emunah?
Yeah.
Man, emunah, and so
Yeah. What does it say about the man? What's the lashon about the man? Why they call it man? Yeah.
The man bringt Menos.
Yeah, v'shmois. No, it's an interesting diuk. Huh? The man bring Menos.
How do you call mon in English?
Menos.
Taster's choice. Taster's.
Very good. You see a chumash shmois? The man, actually, the lashon of the man is very much representative of this. It kept me getting a chumash over there, a blue chumash. In Parshas B'Shalach, when it says the first time about the man, right? So they didn't know how to call it.
Money.
No. So it says, Vayiru b'nei Yisrael, they saw this food. Vayamru ish alachiv, they said to each other, Manhu, ki lo yadu mahu. You hear? They said Manhu, ki lo yadu mahu. They didn't know what it is. So they said Manhu. Okay. So Rashi says, Man means hachanas mazoin. Man means the preparation of new food. K'may vayeman lahem hamelech. In Daniel it says that Nebuchadnezzar designated food for them. So they called it man, which is basically a generic term. Kilayadu mao zakrashi shikru b'shmai. They would love to give it a name. They didn't have a name. Kilayadu mao. Vayoyim Moshe aleihem. So Moshe said, Hu alechem asher nosan Hashem lechem la'achla. This is the bread that God gave you to eat. In other words, they see this, they don't know what it is. They say it's man because they don't know what it is. So Moshe says, Hu alechem Hashem lechem la'achla. So the literal interpretation is they're not sure what he's supposed to do with it. When the Ethiopian Jews were being airlifted to Israel, they gave them toothbrushes. So they started to polish their shoes. Okay? So Moshe says, Hu alechem hashenosan Hashem lechem lach. This is the bread. The Balatanya teaches in the Sfasema says, also, very amazing word. They said to each other, Ki lo yadu man, ki lo yadu mahu. They don't know what it is. So Moshe said, this is the bread that you eat. The bread of lo yadu mahu. This is the bread that you eat. The bread of not knowing. That's the lechem. That's the deepest lechem. The deepest lechem you can eat is the man, ki lo yadu mahu. They don't know what it is. Yes, it says, this is the bread that you should eat. Or in the language of this maimer is, eat the ayin. Right? Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im ayin. This is the bread you should eat. You should eat the bread of Meichin the Abba, even though it's bread that you can't identify. Well, yadu mahu, it's not the b'chinas das. That's the man. Huh? So it's a lashon emunah. And it was a substitute when the matzah finished. The matzah they took out of Mitzrayim finished, so then came the man. The matzah they took out from Mitzrayim finished. It says the charora, that Hitziyim and Mitzrayim finished. So Tezayin Nissan, a month later, started the man. What's the man? The man is Kilayadu Mahu.
Man weiß nicht, was spitze.
Ah?
Man weiß nicht, was spitze.
Reisha de lo yisyada. Reisha de lo yisyada.
You know? It's like the child, he doesn't know what it is.
But he knows it's his father. But he knows it's his father. He runs to his father with the ganze Teukef. Why?
And I get him obsessed.
The mama gets ass.
It's interesting, the machlokes about the rishonim, about questioning. It started with Gaonim also.
Yeah.
Saga Gaon to
Yeah.
say that if somebody is not interested in science per se, of physics, how Rebbe created the world,
Yeah.
vice versa, is not interested in that Chodesh Baruch.
Yeah. The Rambam begins, Yesaydas Amud HaChachmas, Leida Sheyesh HaMatzirish. You gotta know. Others argued. Others said there's no need for it. There's a Metzorah, and that's enough. Nobody argued that it should be blind. The Sefer HaChinuch, for example, right? He says, if there's a river and 600,000 people, right, can testify that they drank from the river and it was, it was either delicious or horrible. He says the logical thing is to believe them. The Chinuch gives this example. He says it's not illogical. Do I have to go now make the investigations myself and go taste it, to go send away the water? He says you could, but he says it's pointless. So even that shitta is not illogical. They just said there's no mitzvah to go do all the investigation yourself, but nobody said, right, to believe stupid things. Chas v'shalom. What they were saying is there's no need for everybody to do all the experimentation themselves. You have a good, reputable pharmacist. Yeah, you could trust him. You have to go to become a pharmacist, go to medical school, and you have a trustworthy doctor. You could trust his prescription. If you don't have a trustworthy doctor, it's not a problem. So that's the Sefer HaChinuch's point. His lashon is, I think, in his Akdama, that 600,000 people drank from a river or a wellspring, and they said it's poison. You say, no, I'm going to prove it myself. He said, if I care, that's a tipshus. The tipshus is that you're not going to trust when you should trust. If you shouldn't trust, then you shouldn't trust. So even that shit wasn't against logic. Nobody was ever against logic, because that wouldn't make sense. If it's real, you're not against logic. The machlokes was, is there a mitzvah on a Jew to investigate? The Chovos HaLevavos believes that there's a mitzvah. He says, Das Elokei Avicha. You have to know. You have to figure out and ask and wonder and know and prove that the God exists. That's what he says. That's why there's a whole section in Chovos HaLevavos, Shar HaPchina, Shar HaYichud, where he tries to prove all these things. That was his shitta. Not everybody learns those sections in Chovos HaLevavos, but it's a major part of Chovos HaLevavos. More popular, Shar HaBitachon is more popular, Shar HaKniyah, Shar HaZeruzos. But that's what the Chovos HaLevavos felt. The Rambam felt that way. Rabbi Sadia Gaon felt that way. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi and Kuzari didn't hold that way.
The real knower only strengthened them. Because something that you basically took, is called a leap of faith, right? And then you actually fill up the gap, you know it. Now, the Emunah is much higher now. It's sacred.
But you to prove it, maybe, sometimes you need a person who is very smart. You know, and you cannot win a discussion with him.
You're right.
You know that he's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just a theory to the idea that let's see, it's not to all the 39 commandments in the Rambam. This is not this idea really.
It says animame. It doesn't say I proved.
There are certain things you need to know, certain things you don't need to. For example, there is certain level of curiosity.
It's like the detectives that when they go investigate, they start eliminating.
Yeah.
And for example, even to have archaeological discovery that can strengthen your immune.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.